Why did a celebrated Hollywood director become shunned by the industry after making the most powerful Christian film of our time? Mel Gibson knew there was no turning back. He understood that portraying the crucifixion of Christ with brutal realism, biblical fidelity, and a cast willing to suffer for real would come at a cost. And yet, he pressed on without studio support, without anyone backing him, driven by a conviction that disturbed many, and continues to do so today. But what few people know is what happened behind the scenes. Unexplainable phenomena began to emerge. The atmosphere on set grew strange, and reactions among the crew spiraled out of control. Those who lived through it have never forgotten. This isn't just a video about a film. It's about the spiritual weight of touching a sacred story, and the price paid by those who dared to film it. What happened on the set of The Passion of the Christ was documented, but few have had the courage to expose it. So watch to the end. There are details that have been silenced and a truth the modern media chose to ignore. Let's get to the point. From the beginning, Mel Gibson showed unshakable resolve. He personally financed the film with around $30 million of his own money, something few directors would dare to do. This act revealed not only his willpower, but his sense of responsibility. He felt compelled to move forward, even as major studios turned their backs on him. This independence from Hollywood opened the door for bold artistic decisions. Choosing to use Aramaic, Latin, and Hebrew wasn't just about historical accuracy, was a statement, a commitment to truth. Jim Caviezel, cast as Jesus Christ, carried a burden far heavier than just acting. Some say he lived every scene. In interviews, Caviezel recalled how Mel Gibson warned him the physical and spiritual challenges would be so immense they could irreversibly damage his career. Still, Caviezel replied, he felt born to take on the role, pointing out he shared the same initials as Jesus Christ, JC, and was 33 years old at the time. That sense of identification raised eyebrows. After all, it's rare to see an actor take on such a high-risk role without hesitation. When filming began, the production faced harsh conditions and sudden winds and sudden rain. In Matera, Italy, there was no luxury here, just hardship, and a lingering sense of mystery that permeated the set. Even seasoned Hollywood crew members felt something different. Accidents began happening, some without any logical explanation. Early on, Caviezel was struck by a real whip during a brutal scene. The injuries weren't planned. Then came the lightning strikes. Yes, plural. Both Caviezel and assistant director Jan McCallany were struck by lightning at different times on the same set. In Caviezel's case, the jolt was so intense that the team feared the worst. He described it as a terrifying moment that shook his faith but didn't break it. He returned to set, determined to finish what he started. In the crucifixion scenes, Caviezel was made to carry an actual heavy cross to enhance realism. During one take, he fell and dislocated his shoulder, the scream you hear in the final film. That wasn't acting, which was real pain, but he kept going. Crew members began to whisper, how could two lightning strikes hit people reenacting the life of Jesus Christ? Was it a coincidence or something more? Even those who didn't believe in anything started to feel uneasy. Mel Gibson, meanwhile, remained a commanding presence on set. He refused to soften any scenes. The violence, he insisted, was necessary to convey the true magnitude of Christ's suffering. Critics called it excessive. Gibson called it honest. Real wounds began appearing on Caviezel's back. Despite the choreography, the whips hit him more than once. He endured sleepless nights and freezing outdoor shoots. The discomfort, the pain, it all added to the realism to enhance authenticity. Gibson insisted on filming in locations that mimicked ancient Judea mountains, cold winds, dramatic temperature shifts. The hardship was relentless. Some say they saw shadowy figures in old garments appear, only to vanish later figures, not part of the crew. Others felt an unexplained peace wash over them in certain parts of the set, even when the weather was hostile. For many, it wasn't just a film. It was a transformative spiritual experience. Pedro Cerrubi, who played Barabbas, said he saw real compassion in Caviezel's eyes, something that moved him deeply and changed his perception of Jesus. Luca Leonello, the actor who played Judas, and previously identified as an atheist, was baptized after the film and embraced Christianity. Even crew members of different faiths began questioning their beliefs. Some said equipment would mysteriously fail, microphones and cameras would shut down for no reason. Violent gusts of wind would blow through at random, then disappear just as quickly. One day, a sudden storm knocked over part of the set. Another eerie moment that made people question if what they were filming was more than just cinema. During breaks, the conversation turned to faith, sacrifice, and redemption. Normally divisive topics now united the crew, whether you see it as divine intervention or a series of bizarre accidents. What happened changed many lives. The film eventually grossed over $600 million. Worldwide, an astronomical return on a $30 million investment. But the real impact, it was personal. Many who worked on the movie or watched it reported profound changes in their lives. People began studying the Bible, returning to church, giving more to charity, reconsidering their faith. Jim Caviezel has said he considers it a privilege to have portrayed Jesus, even though he suffered injuries, underwent heart surgeries, and endured bitter cold. He said the hardship was nothing compared to what Christ endured. Mel Gibson, too, was transformed. He said repeatedly that the Passion of the Christ altered his understanding of both cinema and spirituality. He defended the intensity of the film, saying it was necessary to honor the truth of the biblical account. The goal wasn't just to show suffering, it was to show love, God's love, expressed through sacrifice. And of course, the story doesn't end with death, ends in resurrection. That, Gibson insists, is the true message. Hope. Other actors, like Christo Zhivkov, Pontius Pilate, and Claudia Jareen, Pilate's wife, reported vivid dreams, strange emotions, and even biblical verses appearing in their minds without ever memorizing them. The experience changed people. Since then, many have tried to replicate the Passion's success. Few came close. Why? Perhaps because no other film demanded this level of physical and spiritual sacrifice. The blood, the pain, the cold was all real, and maybe that's why it feels so real when you watch it. The crucifixion scene alone took weeks to shoot. Caviezel stood nailed to a cross for hours through cold winds, with makeup that took hours to apply and with real wounds blending into the fake ones. And yet, he didn't complain. He believed every injury added to the authenticity of the portrayal. What Mel Gibson created wasn't just a film, it was a testimony, not of despair, but of forgiveness. The film ends not in tragedy, but with resurrection, with love conquering death. This is the message of John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. And that message continues to echo around the world. Whether you're a believer or not, The Passion of the Christ is a film that leaves a mark, one that invites you to ask, what would I do if I were face to face with this story?